Hello teacups, what's brewing? Welcome back to the channel. Today's probably going to be quite a short video because there's really only one topic of discussion. I don't know how long I'll go on though, so if it ends up editing down to less than 10 minutes, I'll just mark it as a quick sip. But today is really about Chantal picking fights on the internet again, and there being new players and her perhaps having bitten off more than she can chew, which is an odd idea, but here we are. So there's a new creator in the mix. He's come from a different community on the internet that's now intersected with Girl World because of Chantal's comments about teacups and her appearance of defending him. I say appearance kindly. She has since completely disavowed it. There are obviously a lot of arguments saying that, okay, but she was told in her chat what he really was, and she didn't change what she was saying, and she should have known better, and blah, blah, blah. And we can have that argument definitely, but it's not really the point of today. The point of today is things have since escalated with this secondary creator. Now, Foodie has a few tried and true methods of dealing with this, and I use the word dealing very lightly, and she went with her number one, which is to rant online about it. And seriously, she never learns. This never ends well for her. It usually ends consequence-free, but it never ends well. Why does she keep thinking she can do this? But she had a mukbang, her big sushi rant, and she just can't help but react and make things worse. So her response to the situation and to having several threats made against her and her family in like YouTube titles and things like that was to go online and basically say, my husband knows Kung Fu, which, as a defense in any situation, I know Kung Fu. I'm sorry. It's actually not a laughable situation. It's quite a serious one, but God almighty. And her other point was, my stepdad has a gun and a crossbow, or several guns and a crossbow. So turn up at your own peril, essentially. She goes with her usual MO. She insults his looks a little bit and how pathetic people who react online are in general. She calls her response a pig roast, and my darling, this wasn't even a pork stir fry. So her downfall when it comes into getting into arguments online is always the same. She wants desperately to be the equivalent of the movie-verse popular mean girl who can just end you with a sentence. She wants to have the power to send you to the bathroom crying, because to her that is the pinnacle of power, and I would imagine if forced to psychoanalyze, which, let's face it, I'm never forced to do, but I enjoy, I would imagine was an issue for her in high school herself. She has admitted to being publicly embarrassed by groups of children at some point. If you remember, do you remember she said she got food thrown at her and I think they oinked or something? And that seems like it was a group of people in public. And despite the absolute train wreck she makes of herself online, I really do think that the worst thing that she can think of is being the object of ridicule, but in real life. I realize she is frequently the object of ridicule, but I really do think the space of having a camera makes a difference to her. Because whenever we see her deal with the situation in real life, she likes to say she doesn't care, and she doesn't really care about the internet crap most of the time, but we will get into it. But when she got called fat in French, she was in tears in her car. When FFG actually showed up to her fashion show, she didn't say a peep. We know that she likes to play the confident big influencer online, but when it comes to real life situations, she is just a pile of nerves, social anxiety, and bitterness. So the problem with that, in this case, at the very least, is that both her and the other creator want exactly the same things. They have the same motivations in life. One, they both desperately want attention, and they're getting to an extent what they want. We have seen her need for attention thread through every piece of content she has ever put online. And we have said frequently in the past, without her live chat, without the influx of her hug box, she would really be lost in life. And with him, we can see this need by how he's been going into other reactors' live streams, other channels, and just really hyping up what he's going to do next, because he's getting views and attention. He doesn't care how he gets them. Neither of them is going to let go of that while it's still effective. So we're just going to see this whole situation mushroom out. Number two, both of them are completely incapable of de-escalating a situation. Foodie went live a little bit later. She appears to be attempting to ignore the situation right now. But the problem is that she's very transparent in her actions, and her lunch bees she put out today was just an attempt to very loudly not talk about the developing situation. This was purely an attempt to show how unbothered she was by keeping it nice and light-hearted and just chatting about me and no, I don't care about this. But she has already deleted the sushi mukbang, and both Salah and her were either ignoring or getting rid of comments referencing what's going on. What we're seeing here is essentially the adult version of a very young-minded emotional ploy. So you get any child and they will learn, okay, I've had a tantrum, it didn't get me what we want. I had a bigger tantrum and they gave in. So now I'm going to start at big. And it just escalates from there. Now, most of us learn better coping strategies as we get older, but it's a tried and true method for a reason, and there's no way that Foodie is going to be able to ignore it long enough for it actually to die down, particularly when she's benefiting from the extra views. But beyond the views, she is completely incapable of controlling her emotions in the long term or even the medium term. So there's no way she's going to be able to sustain this. Like, she just doesn't have the patience, and frankly, doesn't have the content outside of this to fill the space with anything else. So even if this ends with her saying to her chat members, no, I'm not addressing XYZ, instead of blocking it, that's going to be enough to keep this alive. And we saw that behavior a lot during the Nada era, when they were like, hey, just stop talking about him. So she'd talk for an hour and a half about how she wasn't going to talk about him. I think we're going to see a bit more of that behavior here. So she'll get angry, she'll make more threats, and I think this will just continue to escalate because all the other side really wants is the spectacle and the feeling of control. And Foodie just doesn't have it in her to not react. A further issue related to that is that both of them see their standing their ground and then escalating the situation as a strength. They both see it as, look how tough I am, I will crush you beneath my heel, which is just not going to end well here. We'll end up watching the world burn for the sake of the pretty lights. And here's the thing with that. None of these consequences are going to be Chantal's. She's not going to have to deal with the majority of it. As the harassment unfolds, the more time that gets wasted by professionals and the more things or people show up at the family home, none of it's going to impact her. Now, the justification for this, if you can use the word, because I don't really think there is a justification for this, is going to be that the small circle of people that remain somewhat connected to Chantal are going to suffer and therefore cause Chantal some kind of secondary pain. But she doesn't care. She is one of the most self-centered people I have ever witnessed. Now, the most that would ever happen within the family dynamic would be Chantal going up to Smee and being like, sorry, Smee, and that being the end of it. In terms of emotional damage, nah, there is none. Chantal doesn't care about anything that doesn't directly impact her. And I don't mean Salah, I don't mean her mum, I don't mean her stepdad, I mean her. Her family are the ones getting those consequences, not her. And because of that, it's not going to matter. She is not going to suffer. She's going to remain secure in the fact that even if she has a visit home, it's temporary and she's not going to tell people where she is. Now, she said she's not telling people before and then things have turned up. But if she keeps the pre-recorded video and she uploads them a bit slowly, then yeah, she could get away with that. But nobody is about to rock up to Kuwait. She has that protection in place. And even if somehow it escalated that far, when I tell you the Kuwaiti authorities are not going to countenance nonsense online as a good reason to turn up to someone's house uninvited, it wouldn't end well. And they would likely be absolutely on Sala's side because they take that shit seriously, because Foodie's not going to be dealing with this. Foodie's not going to deal with the authorities. She'll rant online, maybe, but she's not going to do any real life work. And the fact that it's already escalating in Canada is always going to end one step removed from her. She's going to do what she always does, which is very quickly mentally process, I didn't directly post this information, which has allowed them to cause this trouble. People be cray, it is their fault. And once that is processed, nothing else is going to matter. She'll rant again because it gets her views and she can't stand the thought of not winning. So this won't die down, but it'll always be somebody else's problem because nothing is ever her fault. Now, this will continue for a while. The guy was in Pulpy's chat today saying he was going to, or he had Sala's dad's school name and they were going to call. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think he actually works in the school. I think we were told he works in the ministry. There are a number of ministries within Kuwaiti government. He could work at any of them. Unless he's been doxxed, and I'm just not aware of it because I don't follow that stuff. But I don't think we have the particulars. But let's say that call is made. Let's say that happens tomorrow, okay? What is the conversation going to be? Hi there, I'm a rando foreigner. There is a man who works for you, who has a son who does not work for you, who is married to someone who is kind of a hot mess. It's not going to go any further than the unfortunate person who has to pick up that phone. You think there's going to be an internal investigation? That's not the way this is going to work. And I think sometimes because Foodie is so central to the particular solar system in which we all orbit, I think it can make people, ironically, overestimate the size of her impact. She is overly magnified within this space, but this is a very, very tiny speck of the overall picture. She does not carry this kind of influence elsewhere. But when that doesn't work, I have no doubt that they will try something else. Which is where we are, I guess. It seems to be moving pretty quickly. I hope, for Chantal's family's sake, I hope this gets resolved somehow and no one gets hurt. But what will happen, I don't know. And I imagine we will see whatever it is unfold pretty soon. Okay, everyone, that's all from me, and I will see you next time. Thank you, bye-bye.